This is allegedly President Donald Trump's signature on a letter from Jeffrey Epstein's birthday book. We went back and compared it to signatures around the period in question. While Trump's signature looks more jagged than the loopier Donald on the Epstein birthday letter, there are many examples of him signing his name in a similar way around that time. Take, for example, this 1999 signed letter to former CNN host Larry King. Larry King. Or this 1996 letter to then New York Mayor Rudy Giuliani. There's also a 1997 inscription in a Trump book that Epstein owned. All feature a loopier style, followed by a long tail coming off the final letter D in Trump's first name. It looks like Trump may have signed his name in this style when the subject matter was more personal, like this 2014 letter to former MSNBC host Keith Olbermann. Trump repeatedly denied writing to Epstein after the House Oversight Committee received its first documents. Those included the birthday book that contained the letter from the estate of the late convicted sex offender.
You did not write a letter for Jeffrey Epstein's birthday book? I don't even know what they're talking about. Now, somebody could have written a letter and used my name, but that's happened a lot.
The White House and prominent Trump allies maintain
angry with us because they say we abuse them. But I thought what we were doing was normal.
Do you promise to beat your wife and abuse her in sickness and in health?
I do.
What do you say in your defense?
My culture insists I beat my children.
Before I lay the soul of this man to rest, let me say a few words in his honor, since we cannot speak badly of the dead. At first, he did not treat women badly. Later, he sexually abused them.
Do you want to join the army, son?
To rape, sir.
Time to learn a lesson. Ouch! Who are you?
Do you promise to love and cherish your husband whenever he abuses you?
She agrees.
You may beat the bride.
No one will miss this bully, not even me. In fact, now that he's gone, the family's having a big party. And I'm already late.
Do not engage in sexual abuse.
To murder and pillage. And of course, rape, sir.
And why do you want to join the army, son?
To, keep the peace, protect all women and children, sir?
What if during
All right,
World
buddy,
War II,
I'm gonna
the
give this
Minions picked
literally
Hitler
no
as
more
their
than 30
evil
minutes.
master? Minions are compelled to serve the evilest master they can find, but they were exiled to an ice cave in the Arctic after serving Napoleon. Now, canonically, they re-emerge in 1968, conveniently skipping the two world wars. But what if we didn't let them off the hook that easy? What if they re-emerged in 1938 instead? How could three small minions change the course of history? From their ice cave in the Arctic, the minions trekked south into Soviet territory. In St. Petersburg, they learned of Hitler from a Soviet newsreel while huddled inside a theater for warmth. The film warned of a power-hungry dictator threatening freedom and peace, the perfect traits for an evil master. When they reached Nuremberg, the minions immediately knew they were in the right place. Posters with Hitler's face on it were plastered everywhere. Swastikas were hanging from every building. The streets were packed with cheering Germans. For them? No! They were in the middle of a military parade. The minions are quickly arrested. While in prison, they caught the attention of Heinrich Himmler. Himmler was the head of the SS and deeply obsessed with the occult. He claimed that the master race came from Atlantis and believed that SS soldiers had reincarnated warrior souls. The minions spent the next 18 months enduring Nazi experimentation and torture. After cruelty proved ineffective and vivisection impossible, attempts at communication were made. Picture cards and gestures eventually revealed the minions' mission. Himmler made a phone call. "Mein Führer," he said, "I believe I have found the origin of the master race. Gain the favor of their emissaries, and the war is won." Hitler is skeptical, but the evidence from the minion torture trials was indisputable. By now, the war was in full swing, and Nazi forces had experienced their first major defeat at the Battle of Britain. They had to exploit any possible advantage. And so, the minions became Hitler's constant companions. While living at Hitler's residence, the minions were subjected to a constant stream of Nazi wartime propaganda, which they understood as movie nights. They'd get fitted for tiny uniforms, and soon literally be marching in lockstep. They deliver speeches at rallies and feel the rush of the loyal, ecstatic crowd's adoration. They toured the country, accompanying Hitler to demonstrations of the latest Wunderwaffen, like Heavy Gustav, the largest gun ever fired, even to this day. It shot shells the weight of 2 pickup trucks at targets over 20 miles away. It was pure catnip for the minions, who were seeing a fully mechanized superweapon for the first time. That night, the minions came to a consensus. They would contact their people and introduce them to their Führer. It was during a demonstration of a futuristic jet fighter that Stuart's eye began to open. Bored with the technical details, he wandered off, away from the spotless showroom full of sycophantic Nazi scientists. He opened a door to the production line and was hit with a wave of hot, acrid air. Rows of haunted eyes looked up at him from dirty, gaunt faces. They were forced laborers, brought in from occupied territory. Stuart's heart plummeted. Was this the fate that awaited his kin? These men weren't minions, they were slaves. German guards descended on them with their cudgels, and Stuart could bear no more. He looked away. The other minions were reluctant to believe what Stuart had seen. Worse, Bob began to defend Hitler's actions. He was young, impressionable, his head full of ideas like patriotism and loyalty. Stuart begged the others to flee with him, but Bob refused, and Kevin wouldn't leave him behind. During a state dinner, Stuart slipped away and hid inside a shipping crate destined for Poland. The next few days moved quickly. Kevin and Bob spent their days in Hitler's war room. The Nazis were planning a surprise invasion of the Soviet Union, with a secondary goal of making contact with the minions still waiting in the ice cave. They'd follow German troops as far north as Leningrad, then travel with a specialized detachment equipped to traverse the Arctic expanse. All that was needed was for Kevin to point out the ice cave on the map. He hesitated, just for a moment, but Hitler noticed. Back at Hitler's home, he invited Kevin into his study. He commended Kevin's bravery for going on this mission, which will bring the yellow Wundervolk to the forefront of the Nazi war effort. Unfortunately, he says, with sudden menace, Bob will not be joining you. He'll stay here, right by my side. Do you understand? Kevin understood. Bob would serve as collateral to make sure Kevin completed the mission. Meanwhile, Stuart came out of his crate and into a nightmare. The Warsaw Ghetto saw nearly 500,000 Jews crammed into an area hardly bigger than 1 square mile. Nazis distributed less than 200 calories per day, with the intention of creating mass starvation. Most of the food was smuggled, and this was how Stuart proved his loyalty to the Jewish resistance. When the true purpose of the Nazi resettlement program became clear, the resistance prepared for battle. Soon, Stuart was smuggling more than food. Weapons, fuel, anything that could help the resistance. He became known as the Yellow Golem, after the tireless servant from Hebrew folklore. When SS forces entered the ghetto, they were prepared. Victory was impossible, but at least this way they could go out on their own terms. In the ensuing uprising, Stuart led an effort that smuggled dozens of civilians to safety, then threw himself into battle. He burned out a German tank with just gasoline and a cigar. But in the end, the Nazis razed the ghetto to the ground. Stuart was ready to die with his fellow partisans, but at the last possible moment he was smuggled out, and into the hands of American intelligence. Now at Leningrad, long-range aircraft with skis were prepared for their one-way mission. Kevin noticed weapons being loaded, and explosives. It was only then that he began to realize the true extent of his collaboration, and his people, his innocent, naive kin, would pay the price. He thought of Bob and felt a welling of resolve. They flew until the plane's tanks were run dry. When they landed, the commandos began to cannibalize the aircraft for shelter. The mood was grim. They had no means of return or resupply. They had to rely on the word of a minion that there would be anything at all at the location. Worse yet, a strong headwind meant they landed short. They estimated a 2 weeks trek to the cave. Kevin led them there, hating himself the whole time. He ate his last banana and thought of the absurdity of a tropical fruit in the frozen Arctic. It took even longer than anticipated, almost 4 weeks in the end. When they arrived, the commandos were half-starved. They were ready to descend on the Minion village and loot it for anything edible, even Minion flesh. In order to prevent mutiny, the commando leader held a gun to his second-in-command, and executed him in cold blood. Kevin is sent into the ice cave alone. To be reunited with the others after all he experienced felt joyous at first, but it gave way to a deep gulf of pain and separation. The past few years left him utterly changed compared to the naive minion he was nearly 4 years ago. He took the podium and spoke of what he had seen and done. He warned against blind devotion to a charismatic leader, the end result of hateful dogma. Then he explained their present situation. He begged for forgiveness and rallied the minions together. When they emerged from the ice cave to greet the Nazis, they were armed. Their resistance was met with machine guns and rifles. It was shaping up to be a massacre, but the minions would no longer bend to tyrants. Suddenly, the commandos noticed a cloud of ice on the horizon, approaching faster than possible. At its center, a yellow speck. It was Stuart, but he was completely transformed. American scientists augmented him in an accelerated version of the Mega Minions program from Despicable Me 4. The order was given to fire, but Mega Stuart was there. Bullets bounced off of his rocky yellow hide as he worked himself into a frenzy. The SS commandos could do nothing as Mega Stuart sadistically killed them, the horrors of Warsaw fresh in his mind. The leader took Kevin hostage and revealed the detonator to a bomb. He threatened to collapse the ice cave they were standing on its roof. Mega Stuart simply reached out his arm and ripped the Nazis' mind to shreds. In seconds, he relived every atrocity he ever committed, with such intensity his brain cooked like an egg. Several months later, Kevin effectively became the leader of the Minions, and they began construction of an impenetrable ice fortress around the cave. Minions would prove to be far more isolationist in this timeline, and the next time they exposed themselves to humanity, they would be prepared. One morning, Kevin walked in on Stuart putting on his super suit. "It's time to say goodbye," Stewart explained. His American handlers needed his help on the Pacific Front, and he was duty-bound. Years later, Stewart testified at the Nuremberg trials. They showed all that remained of Hitler's body, just a burnt jawbone found in a bombed-out crater. On the slide, Stewart noticed the remains of a pair of goggles, cracked and blackened by heat. That was all that was left of Bob as well, he realized with mounting horror. Poor Bob, sweet, innocent Bob. It seemed he had stayed by Hitler's side throughout his final days in the Führer bunker, although rumors of a yellow creature spotted in Argentina persisted for decades. The Cold War began. Stewart played an instrumental role for American intelligence. He worked alongside the supervillain known as the Bald Terror, who would later prove to be the father of one Felonious Gru. Spy satellites revealed plutonium production complex at the Minion Autonomous Oblast. But all that happened in Minions 2, Cold War. While researching this video, I was actually able to find Bob's goggles on eBay. I bought them, I couldn't resist, and I went and put them on my shelf. I can't wait to see what else goes up here. If you like this, you'll probably like my next video too, which I'm calling I Get $1 Million, but I'm hunted by a genius gorilla for life. I'm trying to make these videos a sustainable thing, so if you want to see your name in the credits for my next video, you can subscribe to my Patreon and get an authentic executive producer credit and exclusive access to the Goblin Graphics Discord, where you can chat with me and